Hello and welcome to the Alchemy of Business Show. I'm your host, Steve Rodgers. I'm thrilled that you're here today, however you got here, whether you're listening on iTunes, maybe you're on Spotify, YouTube, Roku, if you're viewing it or listening, however you got here, we appreciate it. And I am excited to be talking more today about leadership and about making differences in the world. This show is all about helping people make wiser decisions, getting higher perfect profits and abundance in your life, as well as focusing on higher purpose in your life and work. And the guest today that we have is actually a doctor. His name is Dr. Ervin Laszlo. He's an international known activist for business and connecting to higher purpose and to doing the right thing. And he runs something called an upshift movement, which is part of his recent work. He's written over 70 books. He's been nominated for 2 Nobel Peace Prizes. And I was asked to be on a panel with him through one of my friends and associates, Ken Foster, who also runs his own shows and was hosting this event. And this event that you're going to hear just in a few minutes is a panel that I was on that they did that was connected to a event that they have done for 13 years running. And it's the Global Oneness Summit. They have thousands and thousands of people that listen in or view this every year. They have people like Deepak Chopra, Marianne Williamson, Neil Donald Walsh, who was one of the founders of this. So it's people who are doing things in the world that are making differences. Business leaders, doctors, physicians, and psychologists, therapists, whoever it might be, that come onto these shows. And Dr. Laszlo was asked to be on a panel, and I was asked to be on a panel with him, kind of connecting the day-to-day practical stuff of business, since I'm very directed in helping people run businesses. I consult, I coach, I speak, and being a former Warren Buffett CEO, I helped build a lot of companies for other people, and then also have built them for myself. So we were trying to take my practical ways of doing business and incorporating into what he's talking about basically doing well by doing good and changing the consciousness of not only ourselves, but for those around us and within our businesses, so that our products, our services, our decisions, the things that we're doing will help better the planet, help better the world, help better your company, help better your bottom line, help better your employees, and help better your customers, so that everybody's in a win-win situation. And it's not just about watching the bottom line. So this show that you're going to hear today is really quite opening thoughts and ideas about how you do that. So hopefully you'll enjoy the panel. Ken Foster is the moderator. Dr. Laszlo and I will kick back and forth on various topics, and I hope you will enjoy. Thank you so much for listening in or viewing in. And if you like what you're hearing on this show so far in different episodes or on this episode, please go ahead and subscribe or like on the iTunes platform. We'd appreciate it. We can always use those likes and reviews. Enjoy the show, and thanks again.
Well, hello and welcome, everybody. Welcome to our live event. This is day 4 of the summit. I'm so glad you joined us today. You know, if you've been watching the summit at all, you realize that the speakers are transformational, that you are actually in a place of oneness with our speakers, and with those speakers are really tuning into your psyche. Have you kind of noticed that? They're kind of tuning in and almost telling you what you need to hear when you need to hear it. I've heard that from several people now. So I'm so glad you're part of this Global Oneness Summit. You know, there's so many special guests at the summit. I'll tell you, this morning I was with Steve Farrell, who's the founder of the summit, along with Neil Donald Walsh. They founded the summit back in 2013. It's been going ever since and getting larger and larger. This morning, Steve Farrell and I were able to interview Marla Maples. For those of you that don't know Marla, Marla is a best-selling author, TEDx speaker, American actress, and radio and TV personality, and so much more. But she'll be coming on the summit here a little later in the week, so make sure you look forward to seeing her. And want to give a shout out to our team at Humanities Team, all of you out there that are doing such a great job. We have a lot of volunteers in the team. In fact, about half of the people on the Humanities Team are volunteers. So I just want to give a shout out to all of you who are really making a difference in so many people's lives. There's tens of thousands of people watching this event, and you have done such an amazing job of making this smooth and easy for everybody. So thank you to Humanities Team. I want to now introduce our panel for the day. As you know, this is a half-hour segment, so it goes quick, so pay attention, my audience. Get really present with us. It's going to be amazing. First guest I'd like to introduce to you is Steve Rodgers. Steve Rodgers is a best-selling author. He's a keynote speaker. He's a business strategist. He's a coach. He does so many things. Most importantly, he's bringing consciousness to the realms of business and helping people connect with each other in that realm. Steve, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ken. Appreciate being here.
It's so good to have you. And Dr. Ervin Laszlo has been twice nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize. He's a member of numerous scientific bodies, including the International Academy of Science, the World Academy of Arts and Science, the International Academy of Philosophy of Science, and the International Medical Academy. He was elected member of the Hungarian Academy of Science in 2010. And as I mentioned, he was twice nominated for the Nobel Prize. And he's also, Dr. Laszlo was awarded the Japan Peace Prize and recognized as the Doctor Honoris Causa of a number of universities in America, Canada, Finland, Korea, and Japan. All right, Dr. Laszlo, I'm going to start with you. Welcome to the Global Oneness Conference. I'm going to kind of turn it over to you for a few minutes, Dr. Laszlo. Let's talk about the new shift in paradigm, the consciousness, the oneness, what's going on. You want to give a little comment on that?
Absolutely. Oneness is the good keyword. Absolutely. We need to have summits on oneness. That's what we are having. Not just one day of the year, every day. We need to live the oneness. I have been dedicated, for a number of years to the new paradigm, what we call the new paradigm. New paradigm in thinking and in acting. And when I say that what we need today is a different mindset, a different way of looking at the world and of ourselves, I mean, we need a new paradigm. So let me say a few words about this whole issue. I have founded, the Laszlo Institute of New Paradigm Research, and we are doing work on the researching the scientific foundations of a new paradigm and the applications of it. Now we are moving, we're keeping, of course, the Laszlo Institute working, but we're also moving from planning to action. We have now created the upshift movement. As I said, we need to shift up, and the shifting up means a new way of thinking. What does a new way of thinking really mean? It means a new consciousness, new way of understanding ourselves and the world, not only just understanding but feeling ourselves one with the world. So we have created now the upshift movement. And the upshift movement is going to be headed by its own organization, the Global Upshift Foundation, registered as a charitable foundation in England, and will be operating all over the world. And I want to take this opportunity, instead of just talking about loosely, to actually present to you the mission statement of the Global Upshift Foundation. It's very recent, only wrote it yesterday. We're revising it actually since then. So let me just say a few words about what this Upshift Foundation is going to be dedicated to.
And Dr. Laszlo, how do you spell the name? Because I'm not hearing it clearly.
My name?
Mm-hmm. No, the foundation, the name.
The name foundation, the Global Upshift Foundation.
Upshift,
you won't find it yet because we are going to register it in about a week.
Right.
But look for it. After about a week, you will have the Global Upshift Foundation. What I'm telling you now are a few sentences, a few phrases of what we put as this mission of the foundation, because people are invited to join. We want to create a movement. That means not preaching to the people, but dialoguing and involving, creating projects where everybody can participate. So let's see what it is based on. Very simple. I'm saying current ways of thinking and acting have led the world in crisis. It's a world that is violent, unjust, and unsustainable. The change we need must be an upshift, a positive shift in the thinking and acting that prevail in the human community. Next. There is no person, institutional power in the world that could impel an upshift in the way people think and act. The motivation must come from the people. The upshift we need requires the spread of a more adaptive consciousness among and by the people. A network of people with upshifted consciousness can open the way to a global shift in the condition of humanity. Now, further consideration, I'll be right through, but this is important. Today's world is in chaos. Let's not try to self-use that or forget that. We are in chaos, but there is also advantages to being in or near chaos. Here, butterfly effects surface. Even small groups of people can create major change. The human world is now in a condition that's sensitive to the change of consciousness, even in small groups. This endows such groups with the potential to create real major change. So here's the position. Network groups of people with upshifted consciousness can be the critical mass we need to move the global shift from planning to action to reality. Let me recall what Margaret Mead said. You all know it. She said, never doubt the power of a small group of people to change the world.
That's right.
Never doubt the power of the groups that appear now to affect and possibly change for the better the world in which we live.
Well, I love that, and I think we're that's a great way to start a conversation, is upshifting the world. And Steve, I know that thank you so much for that, Dr. Laszlo, because I think that foundation is so needed in this world today. As you mentioned, there is so much chaos in the world, and there's been chaos in the world since forever, but it's a lot more chaos today. It's a lot more chaotic. We're on a critical timeline right now to really change. If we don't change our thinking, if we don't change our consciousness, this world will probably be doomed. Steve, let's talk about how to upshift a little bit. That's your expertise. When it comes down to the nitty gritty, working with individuals to upshift their consciousness. Let's talk about that a little bit. How do you do that?
Yeah, thank you. And thank you, Ken. And thank you, Dr. Laszlo, for that powerful messaging and setting up the show for the message of what we should start our day with every day, as you mentioned. And I want to applaud you on the work that you're doing. So thank you for that. I'm doing that in my own way and trying to take this upshift movement from thought to planning to action to reality by working with purpose-driven businesses that want to be more purpose-driven and making a difference in the world. So one of the things I found out as being a Warren Buffett CEO and running corporations and companies is they're great about doing structure and planning and making things happen, but we're not always great as a society in our companies doing what we're talking about right now, planning for the future of next generations or our own generation to have a better place to live. So the way I do that with entrepreneurs and business owners is to, yes, help them get more profitable, help them to get more abundant, help them to have more productivity, but more importantly, help them work on their purpose and the contribution in which they're making to the planet, to the world, to their employees, and to their customers. And so we actually put that into a planning process on a weekly basis that we're not just talking about their numbers of how to grow their business, we're talking about what impact they made in the hearts and souls and minds of others by being aware. And as Dr. Laszlo is talking about, it does start with a consciousness, to be consciously aware of it. And then when you're aware, setting action steps that you can take to then create this change to start happening. So that can happen in small little companies, that can happen in big companies, that can also happen in us as individuals. And it's really that awareness piece that Dr. Laszlo is talking about that I think once you're aware of something, you cannot be unaware of it. So the awareness is, what are we going to do about it? And my purpose as a spiritual business activist is to help bring spiritual consciousness to businesses.
Well, there's a law of cause and effect here, right? What you sow, you reap. What goes around comes around. What you give, you receive. There is a law of cause and effect. And I think when we insert in cause and effect service, which Dr. Laszlo has used his whole life to be in service to humanity, what happens is that you reap the rewards when you're in service. And I've seen, even in business, in my own business and business of my clients I've worked with the last 26 years, that it's the simple formula for reaping more abundance and wealth in your life is service. It is. The more you in service, the more greater the return you have. Dr. Laszlo, let me go back to you, and let's just talk about that little piece, cause and effect. How does that impact the world, and from your point of view?
We have got to create a critical mass. You know, a critical mass appears to be a very large percentage of the total population, but that's in stable circumstances. When we are in or near chaos, as we are, the world is super sensitive to change. Any input can nucleate, can blow up, and can make major change. So the critical mass can be small, but what we are dedicated to is creating groups of people, what we call an upshifted consciousness, and then network these groups together. Now you can join this already. If you look at the internet, you say the upshiftmovement.com, you will find that you can register with your own ideas, what you want to do, what you think will be a true upshift, is a better way of proceeding. And we'll try to identify these people, bring them together, help them create projects in which they can truly get together to shift the world. The bottom line is we need groups of upshifted consciousness people. That's the word of the day, I think. Yeah. Bring these people together, let them spread. The most infectious disease is not the disease, but the best inoculation we can possibly get. And that's being inoculated with oneness, with love.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just well, listen, one more word, Ken. Oneness is coherence. Coherence means in the sciences, every part of a system is in communication, sensitively coupled to all other parts. A healthy human being is a coherent system. Human organism today, the humanity is not a healthy organism. It's not in communication. We could be. We have the internet. We're even talking to each other, but we don't listen to each other. We are not coherent enough. The new paradigm means to join together in companies, in groups that really talk to each other, listen to each other, and try to work together. That's the recipe for health, and oneness is the way, and love is the way that you perceive it. That's how you can act, by perceiving your love, unconditional love, not just for other people, but for nature, for the universe. If you find yourself loving, then you are a positive member of a critical mass that will change the world. I'm convinced of that, but we've got to act now.
Well, I think the key word there is you have to act now. You know, the last decade was famous for the me generation, allaboutme.com. This new generation is all about we.com. And what Dr. Laszlo is talking about is taking action now. It's like, it's form your own group, form your own, get your own podcast, get your own radio show, start putting the message in the world, form your own Facebook groups. And most importantly, I think if we all form together, because we need that cohesive group, find out a week or so about Dr. Laszlo's Upshift Foundation so that we can all join that and collectively move this to the next level. Steve, what you say to that?
Well, I think, Dr. Laszlo brings up always some amazing points as I've either watched him on YouTube videos or online or in talking with him live here. And I think the inoculated with oneness, we're all getting, these vaccines to fight illnesses right now or to prevent illnesses. And some people do and some people don't. But I think that the awareness of being injected with love is a great concept to be aware of. And I understand that the world of chaos that Dr. Laszlo is talking about, we are in a state of chaos. And as he mentioned earlier in the show, chaos is how the world changes and gets formed. And so it's not a bad thing, but it is a chaotic thing. And when sometimes chaos is happening, we as human beings get into fear, and fear people get into fight or flight. And so our natural instinct of our brains is to fight or flight. And I love interjecting in this new paradigm to plugging in love. And then instead of being in fight or flight, that the new paradigm is putting in this third factor of love, which is the most powerful of all. So shifting into this.
Which means cooperate, not fight or flight, but cooperate.
Yeah, fight or flight, but cooperate.
Is the one who cooperates. but not the one who fights and not the one who flees, but the one who cooperates. That's the secret, I think, working together, becoming coherent as a humanity on this planet.
Yeah, and in the cooperation versus fight or flight and doing it, and if we're doing it in this cooperative way or this collaborative way that you're discussing, there is great power in that. You know, and there is the universal energy that pulls in when more than one person gathers in the name of good, power automatically comes in. So I love this concept. And I love that we can do it one person at a time. We can do it at one family at a time. We can do it at one effort at a time through an organization or a group, as you're mentioning. But it's the awareness of taking steps that this is the solving problem for the world that we as a society can make sure that we understand is the most important of all. What I find when I'm working with business leaders is they get to a point of success of money or status or what they thought was fulfillment. And they many times say, is this all there is? I thought it was going to feel more. And so even if they're in the midst of chaos, they're still creating success in their life. Sometimes what's missing is this void, and it usually comes down to love, cooperation, and service that you were talking about, Ken, being of service to others. So this cooperative thing that we're talking about upshifting is about being of service and doing it in a cooperative way, lifting up. So I think that is why this consciousness that we're evolving to as a society is becoming more important than ever before, because the global pandemic, as Dr. Laszlo said, did put us in chaos, and it made us level for the entire planet. Every single person on the planet was aware of it at different times, but no one was unaffected by it in some way or another. So this is a reminder of oneness, that we are all one people, we are all one society. So I think that this love factor is key.
Well, we are truly one. We are already one, because whenever, if there is a war, the nations of the world now get together to respond to it. There's a pandemic, the nations of the world are getting together, not always without conflict, unfortunately, but we are moving on to a global level. We are a global community, and we can be either a global community suffering from conflict, from chaos, from misapprehension and misunderstanding, or we can be a global community bounded by love and wanting to work together. It's up to us, but there's no way back. Humanity on this planet is now one community, whether we like it or not. So let's make it a community of bright futures, a community of new paradigms thinking, a community of loving each other. Utopia, it's not, it's necessity. It's part of our survival. It's the key element of our survival. We are one and loving, or we go down along in history.
Well,
so
you know what, I want to say this, first of all. You know, we're talking about love, and sometimes, you know, when people are listening to love, they're thinking, oh, that's kind of foo-foo, and that's, you know, love is a very strong principle in business and in life. And, you know, love, when we're talking about love here, it really comes from a place of abundance. We get out of the scarcity thinking. I think Steve said the fears, but fears are caused usually by scarcity. There's lack, there's limitation, there's not enough. When we start to let go of those principles and we start to realize, especially in this global economy, you know, there's plenty of food in the world, okay? There's plenty of water, there's plenty of oil, there's plenty of electricity, there's plenty of everything. But we lack distribution systems that distribute things in a more fair and equal, you know, it's that place where, you know, I heard yesterday, you know, I wasn't aware that, you know, in Africa, you know, there's still a whole bunch of people that don't have water, right? And I'm thinking, how can that be in this 20th century? So, of course, I got out my checkbook and gave to an organization that they've raised about $100 million to put clean water in the world. We can all do our part, even if it's a small part. We can all start collectively stepping into that place and feeling in our heart. I felt it in my heart. Oh my gosh, what must that be like to not have water? Okay, when we feel that, that's when the call is to step up and to start to form organizations and collectively work together. You know, you don't even have to form an organization. You can be like I did. You can just donate to an organization to start up-leveling humanity in greater and greater ways. Dr. Laszlo, we've got about 5 minutes left. I'd like to give you a couple minutes of that time for final thoughts, and then Steve, I'll give it the next to you. Go ahead.
I am optimistic. Even more than that, or more exactly, I am possibilistic. I think we are now at a turning point where we can really move forward. There is no fundamental progress in these complex systems in the universe and here on Earth other than through transformation. And transformation is often a difficult and painful process. It means doing away with the old. It's not comfortable. You can't just sit back and do the same thing. You're moving forward. But there is no progress other than through transformation. We are now at this point, which in the sciences is known as a bifurcation point. I wrote a lot about this, and I used to think that it's in the future. It has come. We are now in this bifurcation point, which means a temporary chaos out of which we can pull out. We can let ourselves be dragged down by it. Sure, then the sixth global extinction will include humanity. It won't be there anymore. Entirely possible. But we are conscious. We are awakening. We are gradually realizing, and now quite fast realizing, that we can take matters into our own hand. Our own evolution can be influenced by us. We can act differently. If we become coherent with each other, with nature, yes, with the whole universe, because evolution is a cosmic phenomenon. What happens here is part of a whole cosmic progression from chaos into cosmos, from incoherence to coherence. Be part of that. Okay, if we do that, we can move forward and we can become a new planetary species, a consciously evolving species. That will be a total innovation. And the key to that is the sensation, the feeling of oneness, and the feeling of love that is entailed by that. Coherence, oneness, love. These are the key terms. If we exercise them, we become part of it. We become a better human being and an architect of a better world.
Thank you, Dr. Laszlo. And Steve, final thoughts. You got about a minute.
Yeah, I echo everything Dr. Laszlo just said. And I think, a lot of times it seems daunting to us, helping change the world and making this global conscious and giving to others and serving others and making this oneness, and seems daunting. But what I have come to find, my own personal journey, is the more that I make an effort to do that, the more my own soul, my own mind, and my own life evolves. So there is a sense of us as human beings sometimes having a selfishness. So if you're going to do this for a selfish reason, even as benefiting yourself and your own soul and your own benefit to feel better and to do better, then that serves the whole. Whatever purpose you're doing it is why we're here on the planet, to do as Dr. Laszlo is saying, connect, serve, and connect into the oneness that we all are anyway.
Thank you so much, Steve. Where can people get a hold of you, Steve, real quick? And then I'm going to ask Dr. Laszlo that too. Go ahead, Steve, real quick.
Yes, you can go to my website, thealchemyadvisors.com, and you can connect with me there.
Very good. Dr. Laszlo, I've got less than a minute. Where can people connect with you?
Well, I've got a book that puts this forward in 120 pages or so. You can read it over the weekend. It's called The Upshift, the path to healing and evolution on planet Earth. And now we have the Laszlo Institute and the Global Upshift movement. So all of these things, if you look them up, you can be there. With the Global Upshift movement, we ask you to join, to be part of it. But just by adopting this mindset, you start acting differently, because we are not wedded to the old paradigm, to the competition, to the selfishness. That's not part of human nature. That's an aberration of human nature. Yeah. We can move to a new way of thinking, and that's the key to a new world. And we can, every one of us can be part of that.
Dr. Laszlo, thank you so much for this inspiring, uplifting share today. Stephen, thank you so much for the share. We've got to get to our program here in humanity's stream here at the Global Oneness Conference, Birthing a New World. So thank all of you so much for being here today. It's been inspiring, and I look forward to continuing this conversation with you. Okay, let's make it happen. We're going to the program. Here we go.
Thank you, everyone, for listening in on the Alchemy of Business show today. We hope that you enjoyed this panel with Dr. Laszlo, moderated by Ken Foster and also featuring myself back and forth with Dr. Laszlo. Hopefully it brought up some great ideas for you, some concepts. Maybe it's things you've already been working on, thinking of. Maybe you already have that activated in your life and business. But the Upshift movement and what they're doing in the One Global Summit is really about all of us figuring out how to be of service on the planet and to do our best work and our highest work while still creating abundance and profitability in very high ways. Because if you're running businesses, whether you're an employee, a manager, an executive, or you're an entrepreneur, or you're looking to phase from one of those to another, all of these things have practicality that make a difference on your passion, your purpose, your success, and the longevity of whatever it is you're doing and what ripple effects that has, not only for your kids, but your grandkids, but their grandkids, because we all are stewards on this planet, and being of service is the rent we pay for just basically showing up and being on the planet. So hopefully this episode was of value. We felt that it was. At one of the breaks, I felt so inspired by Dr. Laszlo that I asked him to come back in the future for a one-on-one interview that we're going to dig deeper on his background and how he got started on this in his early days. And what are some of the things that he has found over the years from being in this activist position and being an educator and being a thought leader, what things he has actually done that have created positive change that keep him on this path at his age. He's obviously up in his senior years, but he is kicking strong and very passionate about what he's doing. So we do plan on having him back on a future show. So I hope you will listen in for that. But thank you again for listening in or watching on the Alchemy of Business show, where we are always focused on helping people make wiser decisions, creating higher profits in your business and life, and having higher purpose and meaning. If you like what you're hearing, again, please click and do the subscribe button on our iTunes page and maybe give us a review. We'd appreciate it. But thank you again. Make it a great and awesome week. Take care. Thanks.